Hello, thank you for joining us. Welcome to today's live. I'm going to be talking to Dr. Sadia Malick, who is a highly respected consultant obstetrician and gynaecologist with years of experience supporting women through all stages of hormonal change. And she's passionate about education, empowerment, and helping women make informed, confident health choices. She's going to be joining us from, I'm going to invite her on now. I've got no requests, I will add her. And she's joining us from Riyadh. And here we are, I'm just going to invite her on in the UAE. Let's see, replied. That's it. I've got a hi. You've got an invitation. So if you can, that's it. I think you just need to turn your camera around.
Very quickly.
That's okay. The beginning of Instagram Lives always are nice and jumbly, and we like to keep it real because we are real life women. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Malick. It's a privilege to have you here.
No, thank you so much. I wanted to say the same, really. As I said, it's an absolute fan moment for me. I explained to you that before I've been talking about the product, and always I used to say, this is such a good product and we should talk about it. And I said, I will get in touch with you. I always had that. And lo and behold, we have gotten in touch. So this is great.
I'm so excited, and it really blew my mind that all these little Nudi cans might be flying across the world to Dubai and to UAE, and it's quite an extraordinary thought.
Absolutely. As I said, we have to find out what is the best way of doing that and to get this product as quickly as possible for so many reasons that I discussed with you. And I'm sure that there were certain things that we discussed and you got to know more about that. There's so many things associated with this product depending upon different cultures.
Yes, and really today I really want to talk about, so many women experience this phase in silence and often feeling uncertain or even ashamed to talk about their symptoms. And I feel like our goal today is to open up that conversation, respectfully and compassionately without judgment. And I'd love to talk about why do you think there's still so much hesitation or discomfort in openly talking about menopause?
I just think it's how women have, been told to be strong. I don't know where that has come from, and I think that is across cultures. Into somehow as young girls going out of house, starting right from GCSEs, going to university. Whenever we are achieving something, we are always given the message to be strong about it, And I just think that keeps resonating into when we're actually on our knees in perimenopause and menopause. And the same message keeps going through that, how can I be weak now? And then usually women they're at the center of lots of things, whether it's a powerhouse of a business, whether in a matriarchal society or wherever they are holding and gluing things together. So I think that pressure is so huge that you can't just raise your hand up and say, actually, I don't feel strong at all. So I think that's across the board. That's my first reason to.
Yeah, and there's so many misconceptions, aren't there? And about menopause and hormonal health. And obviously in different regions, that's very different. Can you share with us a little bit about the misconceptions that you experience when you're speaking to your patients?
Yes, so a little bit about my background, that I am a very proud West Midlands trainee. So I've trained as a obstetrician and gynecologist in West Midlands in Birmingham. And so I was very fortunate to have a wide range of, while training and getting to know different women from different cultures as being in Birmingham. But then when I became a consultant gynecologist, I went 10 years ago to UAE in Abu Dhabi, and I was a consultant gynecologist in a large hospital. And again, as you understand, UAE is, I really found that I was very happy to meet the Arab cultures. And then, of course, we have the same different nationalities again over there. And now for the last 2 years, I'm working as a consultant gynecologist in Riyadh in King Faisal Hospital. So what I have found, again, the same thing about being strong and the fact that I think women here want to emulate their mothers a lot, because if you've never heard your mom and your grandma complaining about this, that is the first thing that you think, so am I weaker, or am I different, or am I, as Dr. Wonderite says, broken, to then be complaining about these things. So that's one thing. And then there is a element of, maybe shame associated with it. And also, you have that feeling that you're not young anymore. So are you, lesser than any young person? The feeling of letting go of youth is another very depressing point over here. And so that is also the feeling of you. In fact, sometimes, and also culturally, the word that is used for menopause translates into the years of sadness. Yes, so it was called Sinil, yes. So, and it was so
dear.
uncomfortable. Yeah, so imagine that if you have to, like, we go to the clinic and say, Doctor, I'm now menopausal, and I would like you to, we just use that term. But they have to actually go and say to the doctor, Doctor, I've just entered the years of sadness.
Oh.
So can you please help me? So imagine how much strength you have to go to say that, so these are all these things which are knitted into the fabric of the community, which I'm very happy to say that the young girls and our generation is definitely, coming forward and really, really working hard to help others and help us help them.
I'd love to just go back and just talk about our mothers and their mothers. Do you think, in your opinion, that our mothers spoke to their mothers about this ever?
No, I don't think so.
No.
No, and I will give you an example with 30 years of my experience in taking histories, and I'm very proud of my history taking skills. I still take a history like a medical student with my pen and
Brilliant.
pen. So, do you know one scientific question? When did your mom had menopause? That still has so much implications, because that will give me, I'm almost, I would say 70%, if not 80, 90% correct to predict your menopause. So if you would tell me correctly when your mom had menopause, I would be able to kind of help you to say, well, you would be having the menopause around the same time. So much we reflect our mother's genetics.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah,
But
and
I'm
then
not sure that's a conversation that many people have here.
exactly, yes, because your generation was the World War generation. Your grandma's generation was then the World War generation, isn't it? They
That's
won the
right.
World War for us. So that generation will never talk about
Yeah.
this. And yeah, so I miss that point, because majority of the time the answer is, I never asked my mom that.
No.
Uh, so that's what I say, we need to start from simple things. Today with this conversation, that's why I so love having these conversations, that we are not going to have a scientific breakthrough during this meeting, but I promise you that if one person today after this conversation goes and says, Mama, when did you have your menopause? Because then the next question would be, did you suffer, mother?
Yeah.
What was the problems that you had, mom? So, and just her thinking that somebody realizes that during her hot flushes, during her pain, somebody now sympathizes with them.
Yes.
That's such a nice feeling today if somebody will go and ask that to their mom.
Yes. So, Dr. Malik, does that mean that the symptoms that your mother had would be the same or similar to the symptoms that you will experience?
Generally, yes, yes, absolutely. A lot of things you reflect with of what your mom went through.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, where cultural, in different cultural values and different traditions, how does that influence how women view menopause and treatments like HRT?
Yes, so unfortunately, the WHI study didn't help any of us, and as across all over the world, here also the scare, I can safely say that hormone replacement therapy is equal to breast cancer. Can you believe that? Like, you just have to open your mouth and that's it. You have to sit again and again revisiting. But Dr. Malik, it causes breast cancer. You know, so that is so now ingrained, and I'm talking about doctors, patients, women, men, all of them. You know, so that is the biggest problem that this study, or generations of problems that we are facing. You know, that this association with breast cancer is really very, very, very difficult
Yes. So
to break.
how do we start moving through that conversation to push it forwards?
Like, I really believe that rather than, of course, scientific debates are extremely important. Science is very important. Science got us to this point now that people like Dr. Mary Claire, Dr. Louise Newson, you know, they are using research and they always back whatever they're saying with new published evidence. And that too, evidence from the WHI study. You know, they are now extrapolating the results, and all the time. What is the most shocking thing about WHI study, which nobody talks about? That out of the three groups, there was estrogen only, estrogen and progesterone, and the placebo. So guess who had a 40% reduction in breast cancer in that study? The estrogen only arm.
Right.
And you know, this is the most hidden thing, and not discussed point about the same study, which people are saying you'll get breast cancer. The estrogen and progesterone arm had a slightly increased risk of breast cancer, and that too was with the older progesterones. So now with the newer progesterones, the body identical progesterones, we don't believe that that is as high a risk as it was mentioned. So I think that's why, how we can is we use science. There are these amazing infographics by the British Menopause Society. I use them. I've always got them on hand to explain to patients that, okay, what is the increased risk? You know, 1 in 10,000, that's more than a village. And, you know, so in whatever people would understand. So that's one way. And the second way is why, as I said, sometimes I really, you know, in a busy life, you're thinking, and people ask me also, you know, do I really need to come on Instagram and talk about these things?
Yes.
I really feel, because I have, so the short time that I've been doing this, I've had so much feedback that it's comforting to have somebody looking like me. It helps, you know, to people to talk about their problems. And only yesterday I had a phone call from a very accomplished gynecologist, and she is suffering so much. And she said, I just would prefer to talk to you. She didn't need any advice in terms of, she knew everything. But it was just reassuring for her to reiterate her symptoms to me and saying, you think it's okay for me to take hormone replacement therapy?
Wow.
And I said, yes, of course, you must, you know, with after discussion and everything. So I think
Yes.
it is important.
Yes, yes, yes. And funnily enough, my sister-in-law is a GP, and she was the one that said to me, she gave me that exact infographic that you were referencing and said, you need to
Yeah,
have this, you need to have a patch, and you need to have it as soon as possible. So, yeah,
yeah.
information's everything. And just going back to, in communities where modesty and privacy are sort of deeply valued, how do we create a safe, respectful space for women to talk about their hormonal health?
Yeah, we need leadership from the same community. You know, we need people from the same community, people who they trust to come forward as leaders, and that is what, inshallah, that we 12 months later, I hope that we'll be talking at the same point next year this time,
Yes.
and I hope that with all the work that you and I are doing and lots of other women are doing, we will have more women coming forward amongst the society, and that is the key. Because if that doesn't happen, as I learned a very nice word, that, you know, we are celebrating menopause at the moment, we are celebrating perimenopause, but still we have only scratched the surface. I don't think so. We are reaching the women who have to be reached. We are reaching enough women with solutions, because we are just discussing the problem. We're at that stage at the moment, but at least we are discussing the problems. But the
Yes.
solutions are still very far.
Can I ask you what you feel that men's role are in this conversation?
I have to
I'm
watch.
talking husbands, I'm talking family members, I'm talking about medical professionals. It's quite a big question, but I just
Yes.
wondered if.
Yeah, I have to be very, very careful going live as to what I should say about men and their
But
support.
it's about support.
Absolutely. I tell you, I've got so many stories. I think stories are nicer to tell. I had a consultant in a specific specialty. I won't mention, and she's a very accomplished consultant. And she came to see me, and my God, she just totally confided in me that she can't do her work because of her severe menopausal symptoms, and she
Yeah.
does very, very serious work. So, of course, I counseled her, and she started using the HRT and felt a million times better. But her husband, who was even more accomplished consultant, um, said, "Oh well, she's just poisoning you, and you're going to have cancer and all of that." So, and I said, okay, that's fine, so let's have a discussion. So it was very difficult for him. He's a very important, very busy doctor, but it's very kind that at least he said, okay, we are going to have this conversation. And we had it, and he was then so happy. And he thanked me, actually. He really thanked me. And he said that in these 20 minutes, what I have learned, I've never learned on any website that I've been, and you've actually taught me. So that I remember that I will use that learning point now. That rather than saying go, as much as I can communicate with husbands, I would like to do that. So I would say to every doctor who's prescribing to insist on getting men on board.
Yeah.
And that's why I also did that you should put your dates, your pap smear dates, your mammogram dates on the fridge. If the children's examination dates are on the fridge, if the children's ice hockey lessons are on the fridge, I want your pap smear, and I want the men to say, darling, when is your next pap smear. So
Brilliant.
that's how we should have ideas of engaging men.
That is absolutely brilliant. And so how can women approach these sorts of conversations with their doctors when they feel a little bit embarrassed or afraid of being judged?
I think that unfortunately for me, it falls back onto the doctor. I really think that this is when today only I was talking to my residents, and these are new girls, they've just joined in, and we were talking about history taking. And she said, she came to me to present the case, and I asked her, did you ask about these personal questions? And she just blushed, and she said, I knew I was supposed to ask this, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. So I said to her that this will be your maturity and your growth as a doctor. And thank you very much for being so honest with me that I just couldn't. I said, this is what you should now learn and develop. So I would say that this is something that doctors must learn and develop to increase their skills and talk about menopause. How I'm going to approach it, even if she's talking about her chest infection that is associated with inflammation, which leads to hormone replacement therapy and hormonal symptoms and so many things. So
Yes.
I think we need that work has to be done where doctors have to increase their training and to be that person where you would open up, I
Yeah.
would think.
And you touched earlier on using your social media platform as a voice for, for sharing information, empowering women. What in the communities, in your real life communities, could we expect from each other or want from each other to support?
Yes, so again, as you know, that the best thing is to talk about your problem. So what I have personally done is that I invite all my patients to make groups in their homes. So because I know that they are at the moment anxious, and I said, well, you've got a few friends and all of you know each other's secrets, so you're okay with each other. So
Yeah.
why don't you invite me for a cup of tea, and then we can talk. So I found
Yes.
that very, very, helpful, and really I managed to reach so many other women who weren't even not happy to come to my clinic. So I don't care of how small that is, as a most small thing, I feel very happy. I discussed with 4 women heart to heart over a cup of tea, and they were so happy. And half of them started hormone replacement therapy, and half of them didn't, and because they didn't need it or whatever. But this is very good idea of having small group sessions over a
Yeah.
cup of tea. Call someone over who you think know more than you. It doesn't have to be an expert, just a friend. And also, what I'm doing personally is that I've been very fortunate that in these meetings, I get then invitation. So this year I was invited by the Saudi Osteoporosis Society, the Saudi, Heart Association, the Saudi Endocrine Association. And so these are like large meetings across all Saudi. And so as one person, I think that I got the opportunity to, and I'm only talking about menopause.
I mean, and menopause spreads into so many parts of your expertise with cardiology and
Yeah,
everything else that we we need. They all need you because it's touching onto so many different topics,
yeah, yes. I
and
mean,
it
see,
must be enlightening them.
as I said, I'm so like I always do because I'm really so emotional and moved up for the comments that you get. So I do a lot like a Dr. Nigat Arif. I always say get in the car and do a little reel, because then you can actually see the emotion, and you can just say that, oh my God, I just came back. And then the response, like the osteoporosis. I mean, 1 in 2 of us will break a bone. Come on, we have to change those figures. And if we have only one FDA approved drug, which is estrogen, to prevent osteoporotic fractures, can we start that discussion about it, and can we give women the choice? Like one of my patients, she's Australian. She spent her whole life looking after her mother, who would just have to sneeze to get a fracture. She was
Oh,
so osteoporotic, and
oh,
she had her whole spine broken into pieces because of osteoporosis. When you listen to her, it's so she says, Dr. Malik, I have only one wish. I don't want to be like my mom.
no,
So she is now, mashallah, 72. She started perimenopausally. She started, I think Australians are well ahead in the world, I must say, about hormone replacement therapy.
yeah,
So she is now 72, and she started it during her perimenopausal time. And both she and I, we just open her bone marrow density scan, which is absolutely normal. And we just have a little cry because we just are so emotional for
because it's
her,
normal.
because it's normal. Her bone density scan is absolutely normal. Her spine is normal. So we just kind of read it. But her tears reflect her mom's pain,
Yeah,
and I've never met her mom, and I feel so special that I'm part of this story with her,
yeah.
that I just do a DEXA scan for her, and we have a look at it, and we just have a little cry and have a little laugh, because so you see, each patient's journey is different. Each patient's decision is different. So if she's taking estrogen at 72, that's all that she is. That's her journey, So it's just amazing, the stories.
You're touching on so many people's lives, and every time that you speak at your events, it will touch that one person who will tell that one person, and so it goes on. So we need you. We need you to keep going. Can I ask you about how emotional or mental health support can be integrated with medical care for menopause? Because I know we're talking about bones, and people often talk about hot flushes, but mental health is sometimes it's the conversation that perhaps isn't included in those when women are talking, sharing tea, because there's still a strange taboo that's around it.
Absolutely. And I think they are intertwined a lot. I think they're really, really intertwined. And the numbers would tell you, I always like do that. 1 in 8 women have got breast cancer, and 1 in 4 will have dementia. But 1 in 3 will have cardiovascular disease and psychiatric illness. So
That's huge.
after menopause, it's huge. So if you're not talking about menopause, we're also not talking about the fact that I just don't feel right, and I'm feeling very low and depressed, and I'm
Mm,
feeling very sad. It begins from feeling of sadness or anger or unhappiness, which then, when left alone, becomes a mental health disorder.
sure.
So again, it is part of the fact, like in our culture, they would say you should just pray. So why are you upset? You should just pray. It's a sign of that you're not very religious, or you're not asking help from the Almighty. So that can be snubbed down in that sense.
Mm.
Or again, you're not being strong. You just have to be strong, isn't it? So that's another very good point that you have highlighted. That I think in the same breath as we talk about menopausal symptoms, we should talk about mental health. Absolutely.
Yeah, because we're very quick to say, oh well, I've got the frozen shoulder, or I've got the problem with my foot, or
Mm.
I have got joint pain. But then we sort of leave out the fact that I feel a bit low, or I feel
Mm.
like I'm having a breakdown, or
Mm.
any of those things that are such enormous mental health crises. But even, I mean, I even know amongst my own friends, it's the bit people are a little bit reluctant to share. And I don't know how we change that.
We change that by as what we are doing now, to keep talking.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, let's look at the statistics. Why is the age of 51 the age of suicide for British women?
Mm.
It's no coincidence that it lands exactly that. For years and years, she had perimenopausal symptoms. Nobody was taking her seriously. And there
Yeah.
are so many ladies, for their memory, and their husbands are really working. There are 3 or 4 very suicidal deaths which have been confirmed now because of lack of support of hormones at that age for those ladies.
Mm.
So these things should even prompt societies and should prompt more people to get together to talk. And I think you have made me now think that I promise you that every time I'm going to talk about menopause, I'm going to talk about mental health at the same time, because I haven't done that. But really, in this conversation, that's the first thing I have learned to change. That every time I talk about menopause, I would be talking about mental health.
Yeah, so what I mean, that would be incredible, and for all of us to share with each other and be honest with with our friends. And so how what message would you share with women who are silently struggling?
We have to be honest with ourselves. That's the first thing I always tell women, that, and I always encourage something which has really helped me with my patients. I tell them, if you're a writer, write, and if you're a typer, type.
Oh,
Yeah,
I like that.
every patient has to do this for me, otherwise we're not friends anymore. And also I tell them, what they write, I promise them nobody will read it.
Right.
So what they have written is only for themselves, only for their eyes. What they have typed is only, it's not for me. And I tell them to keep going back to that piece of paper and write down all the things that you think you cannot say to anybody, or all your problems, and put numbers to the problems. So I always ask my patients, top 3 problems. I said, at this moment, and it's nothing to do with gynecology, you can put down husband, child, mother-in-law, in that order or the reverse. But these are your problems. These are your top 3 problems. And then go and meditate on them. This is called journaling, also in evidence-based medicine. And then I said that go back to it with solutions. And then you yourself researched it, self found the solutions, and then you will work on it. So I find that to be so just start with yourself first, that I have a problem, which I've documented. And now what am I going to do about it? So that's how I really encourage women. And usually in my first meetings, I tend to leave the deeper conversation, and I just tend to talk about myself, which I'm very good at doing. And I just tell them how I can help you, and how we just talk about that. And I always then do a virtual phone call later, say, so how are you doing, and are you writing those things? And
Yeah.
so that opening up to yourself is, I think, the first key for helping any woman.
Yeah, so you're sort of turning your eyes inwards, because at this point in our lives, our eyes are turned outwards and we're looking after children, our jobs, our husbands, our aging parents, our own health, everybody else's health, and
Mhm.
everything that comes with it. And perhaps we don't allow ourselves the time to stop and say, actually, if I have to write them down, what are they? Because it's probably just, you think is a load of stuff, but
Yes,
they need
exactly.
splitting out.
A- And I also make them promise that in 24 hours, there is 1 hour which is for yourself.
Ooh,
So this is another promise I make them do. They have to write everything down, and 1 hour, which is a total timeout. Okay, no husband, child, work, world is allowed in that time. And then literally they ask me, "Oh, what am I going to do in that hour?"
yeah.
Literally. Because you've never given yourself that hour. So you don't know how to sit with yourself for that 1 hour. So I said, no, it's 1 hour, not a minute less. 1 hour, you're going to sit there and say, okay, what am I going to do with myself? So you write, you jump, you do your 20 Wonder Rides jumps, you see your yoga, you listen to Marie Claire,
Yeah.
I don't know, but it has to be only targeted to yourself, you know. And that really, really helps, when people steal that word. I use the word of stealing. I said, even if you have to steal that 1 hour and then
Yeah.
sit with yourself and say, okay, what do you want? And it's so loving to love yourself at that time.
Yes, well, it's self-advocacy, isn't it? And we, unfortunately, we pop ourselves at the bottom of the pile, and it doesn't do us any good, which doesn't do anybody else any good. So we need to invest in ourselves in order for our families to flourish and our
Yeah.
our work and health and everything else.
And nobody else is going to do it for us. I will
No.
give you your example. I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking that you would think that there are some people in this world whose job is to look for niche in the market, to look for what markets need. I always imagine that there's somebody whose job is this, and then they find this amazing idea and become millionaires. That's their job. But people are so out of tune in women's needs that you guys, I mean, you amazing ladies, had a problem yourself. And you had to find a solution for yourself, isn't it? Even into making a new thing, you had to start from scratch. And there was nobody else out there who would be thinking that a billion women on the planet are now menopausal. So shall we just sit and take a paper and pencil and think, what
Mm.
would be the needs of these billion women, and do
Yes.
something about it? So,
Yes.
so just your example is one of the million examples of what our needs are at this stages in life. And there's nobody out there who's really actually doing something,
Yes.
except.
Well, you certainly are, Dr. Malik, and I've had you for a half an hour, and I know that you must go. And I just want to ask you one more question because you're such an inspirational person. And the thing about you too is that I've learned is that you have an engine and you will keep moving forward and keep the conversations going and spreading out over all the other topics as well. But I guess I've just got one more question, which is if you could change one cultural perception around women's midlife health, what would it be?
y- you have aging is not depression. Aging is not the years of sadness. You have got the superpower of wisdom. I tell all my women that now you have a superpower. Imagine you at 23. My God, I don't know about you, but I was pretty silly at 23. I don't want to be my 23. I cannot imagine myself. I feel so embarrassed at my 23-year-old. So how come? You just imagine you're equipped with so much wisdom now. So you have this superpower now. You should celebrate this and change this. That I've aged. No, you haven't aged. You've just turned into a superwoman. Simple
Amazing.
as it.
Well, on that note, that is, someone's just written, I love that. I think we all love that. Dr. Sadia Malik, thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom and your inspiration and making us understand this is not a time for sadness. It's really the opposite. And
Absolutely.
if anyone, we've had lots and lots of people watching, and it'll be shared afterwards. If you're watching this and you think that there's somebody that would benefit from listening to this, please forward it on to them. Also, please go to Dr. Sadia Malik's page on Instagram and follow her for resources, also her website. And please, let's do it again.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll take the questions from what we gather from here. We'd love to answer everybody's questions around this and everything. And
Let's
last
do
thing,
that.
if I may, I always want to give this message that looking at you and me together on this screen, we look poles apart. But I promise you, for me, working in 3 continents, women are only 3 groups: less than 40, between 40 and 50, and more than 50. That's how I look at women all over the world. And believe me, in these groups, we are all the same. We have our specific problems of these three age groups.
Yes.
So I can promise you that we are never poles apart. We are all so similar in these three age groups. So I only divide women in these three age groups. Are you less than 40, 40 to 50, or more than 50?
Yeah, well, I'm
That's
definitely more than, and I've been the other two. So, but my heart is absolutely full from your inspiration. So, thank you so,
you're
so
very
very
kind.
much.
You are
And
very kind.
please, let's do a questions and answers next time.
Yeah, yeah, love
I
to
would
do
love
that.
that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Goodbye,
Bye,
good evening, and
everybody.
thanks for
Bye, who has
everyone for
joined.
joining us.